July meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission. I want to welcome all of our members and their guests. And I think rather than going by name, we'll just have you stand. Stand. So we know that you're acknowledged. You're on both, so you have to stand quiet. I'll now turn the meeting over to Bert Wyatt.
You can sit right here.
Thank you. Hello, Bert Wyatt, Chairman of the Bond Commission. I'd like to call the Bond Commission to order. So everybody on the Bond Commission, if they wouldn't stand up as well. Wow. Big turnout tonight. That's great. Thank you. So the first item on the agenda, let's set a time expectation. We need to end the meeting by 7 o'clock. We got some other commitments with city council meeting and baseball and all that stuff. So 7 o'clock will be our ending time. So the first thing on the agenda is approval of May 6 minutes. Everybody will take a minute to look at them. Throw them on the table. Comments? Suggestions? If not, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Okay.
Who was that second? Jane, okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll move to the subcommittee reports. And we're going to call on Ron Dickerson. Yeah, come on up. Where do you want to speak? We have 3 subcommittees, and this is the first one.
I pulled the short straw. I get to go first. So, as many of you know, we broke down the group into 3 subcommittees. And as the chair of the Streetscape subcommittee, you know, we felt like we had a little bit of a daunting task. If you think about Hickory and how beautiful it is, it's all about getting you to that beautiful spot. And so you're going to hear a lot tonight about the Riverwalk, obviously, but also City Walk. But it's important that we're bringing people into our community, and how we're going to do that is with proper signage and beautiful streetscapes, getting you into those areas. So during our drive around was pretty daunting, and Brian Frazier from the city took us around. It was pretty amazing. It was about a 95-degree day, and the air was working on the bus, so we're thankful for that. And we visited every possible route that you could take into our city. And pretty amazing that Brian was able to figure out this nice little map to get us all around. But we really saw the really adequate places that we have and what we have to offer, but we also saw the areas where we desperately need signage and more beautiful streetscape. Some of the areas that we kind of hit on, if you look here with your minutes, you'll see kind of the topics of our conversation. It's funny, our highest scoring component of our meeting was the 7 to 10 year phased approach. And I think that really speaks to the thoughtfulness and the thoroughness of our project that we're doing with the entire Bond Commission, which is thinking ahead, making sure that we're connecting all these vital resources that we have in the city together. And a lot of what you'll see listed on here is really focused on that. As well as addressing areas that are underserved. You know, one area in particular is Old Lenore Road. And we kind of forget that Old Lenore really serves as the main artery into downtown Hickory from our Lenore and Granite Falls area. And that area, I never noticed until it was pointed out to me, it didn't have a sidewalk, that entire length. So those are the things that we discussed, and I think that we can unanimously say that we need to address. So that kind of wraps it up. If anybody from our team, our subcommittee would like to say anything, obviously a welcome any comments. Work, anything else you'd like me to touch on with that?
We're good. We're good unless there are questions. There's a lot of items on this list, and as Rob points out, the idea is let's prioritize them, and we may not have enough money to cover all the items that we want to do in all 3 subcommittees, but we're going to come up with kind of a long-term plan for it. They'll be phased.
I picked on them. I told them, I said, you need to give me all 40 million, because if they can't get to your project, it doesn't matter.
That's all in jest. All right, well, this is important work we're doing here to move Hickory forward. So the next one will be Ed Farthing, please.
No, we want the entire 40 million, so you can't do it. Hey, I'm Ed Farthing, and I'm on the City Walk. For those of you who are not on the bond commission, the City Walk is basically a passageway from Lenore Rhine, following basically the railroad track through downtown Hickory out toward the old Piedmont Wagon Cornerstone Building. And you can obviously walk that now. The city has sidewalks, and if you choose to walk from Lenore Rhine to the old Piedmont Wagon Building, you can do that. So what we need to do is to create something that will entice people to get out of their house on a nice day and come downtown or come toward that area to make that walk. That might be because let's go check out what's going on the city walk. Well, that means we need to provide spaces for something to go on the city walk. It needs to be visually stimulated so that when you're there, one, you know you're on the walk and not just in an area of downtown Hickory, and two, something that excites you to look at it. That may be sculpture, or that may be something that someone is doing, or that may be stores that have opened in governmental, private cooperation to do something like an art gallery or a soda shop, or anyway, something that people will want to come to. So just like Cityscapes, we did that entire route. And we saw both all of the opportunities that are available and some of the challenges. The entire city walk will probably be in the railroad right-of-way. So we have to negotiate with the railroad if we want to do something. That's probably not going to be a huge hurdle because virtually everything along there is already in the right-of-way. All of the streets and sidewalks and other things are already in the right-of-way. So, but we still have to negotiate with the railroad to do something. What do we want it to look like? Well, again, we went through the same list that the Cityscape people did, and we threw out ideas that we prioritized. It doesn't necessarily have to be just a direct corridor. It can have spokes off of it. And one of the spokes that we clearly want is something that connects the Salt Block, science, art, literature together to the Ridgeview Library. That would be so easy to do, to connect those two wonderful resources this town has. And make it a part of the city walk. Signage to get people to one place or the other. Historical concepts that have occurred along that walk so that people can make it somewhat historical. All those ideas are being thrown out. And I'm not going to go too far into this, but one of the things that's really exciting as far as we're concerned at the city walk is this Tiger Grant that the city has applied for. If we get it, the minimum is $10 million. The maximum will be about $22 million, and it will be for the city walk because that's what was ready to be produced and sent to the federal government. The entire project, as envisioned, is in the $25 to $30 million range. So if we get $22 million from the federal government, we don't need a whole lot of money from the bond, and all of you other projects can have all the rest of that money. Any questions? And the answer from all of us is going to be, we're not sure. We've got to have some more meetings before we're sure on what we're doing, but we're making progress and we're excited about doing it. Anything else?
And there's more to come on that Tiger.
Yeah, that's why I just mentioned it.
She's led into it here.
All right, thanks.
Anything on that one? Okay. So I'd like to call Charlie Dixon here to the Riverwalk.
Enjoyed listening to how we're going to divide up the money.
Yeah.
And I joined in the hope that we'll get 22 million so we can get all the money that we need for the Riverwalk. The river and the Lake Hickory, as all of us know and all of us agree, is one of the great assets of Hickory and Catawba County. And that's why having a Riverwalk is natural and is an ideal part of this beautification of Hickory, development of Hickory. However, we face a challenge to develop the area because of the topography of the land, but also because we have to deal with the power company, the railroad, and the highway. when we made the site visit, we actually visited only Highway 321 north to where the Lackey Park is going to be built. The Lackey Park being there, though, adds a great deal to Riverwalk and also adds a great deal to making our effort and our part of the spending the bond funds an easier project. At the same time, we recognize the fact that we're presenting to the engineers and the developers a real challenge. The topography out there is very challenging. It's going to be hard to have walks and so on over some of the land. And we want, of course, to preserve the site as best we can, to prevent erosion, to consider the environmental aspects of the development, but also to add to the beauty of the area so people can enjoy the river and can actually get down close to the water and look at it. So the characteristics of the site, as we said earlier, we need to consider, but we also need to consider safety. One of the big aspects that we talked about in the video you'll see on the printout. We want adequate lighting. We want areas of the site to be available by ambulance and by rescue squad people. We want there to be places where people can get food. There's all sorts of things to make it more useful. We also have the waterworks building there that's got to be designed around and planned around. And we've got a building that's being used by the police department that needs to be preserved, but also adequately used. So we're looking forward to seeing the presentation. I think the designers have tried to implement all of our concerns, but they're facing with reality and how to spend a limited amount of money to face these challenges. I won't ask for questions because I know we're on a short time frame, and I know that you're going to really listen to the designer's report and not my report. Thank you.
And I forgot, I would like to recognize the city officials that are here. So we got Councilman Zagarola.
Here?
Yeah. You got a meeting tonight, don't you?
Oh, yeah, I'll take it.
And then all the other people that work for the city, I'd appreciate if y'all would stand up as well. Y'all are, thank you for that, y'all. Thank you. All right, this is part of the program, and we'll turn it over to Freese Nichols. And Charles, I'll let you introduce your team.
Okay, thank you, Bert.
Yep.
Good evening. I'm Charles Archer with Freeze Nichols. We are with the consulting firm the city has selected to help with the program management for the $40 million that the community is supported with the bond referendum last November. The main event tonight is conceptual plans for the Riverwalk, and we're passing those out right now, and we'll get into the details of that in just a moment. But let me introduce the two folks with me. Morgan McElwain, both raise your hand. She's an engineer with Freeze Nichols, working on the project. Jessica Martin Lane, passing out as well. Jessica's with Mark McGill, they're on our team. Mark McGill's doing the financing part as well as the grant administration part. And Matt Milano, landscape architect, he's the star of the show tonight. You're going to see his idea of he's taking your vision and put it on paper. That's the next step towards making it a reality. Just a quick recap. The City of Hickory has hired us to help them manage this program. We've got, as use the Riverwalk as an example, that's an idea to create a walkway along the river connected to different parts of the city. We're not doing all of it at once. There's not enough money to go around for everything yet. So this is just the first phase. So we're trying to figure out what these pieces are going to cost. along the way and what priority might need to be built in. And a lot of things will affect the priority of what's built in. You'll hear more about the Tiger Grant. You heard a little bit about it a little while ago. But if we're successful in that grant being approved in a couple of months, that kind of changes the game of what comes first. We have to focus on city wall. But we're going through a systematic process. We're focusing on Riverwalk, developing the concept and the cost for it. Then we're going to move on to the streetscape and gateways to refine the scope, concept, and cost for those improvements. And then finally, the city walk. And the reason the city walk is third on that list, one is coincidentally because of the Tiger Grant that we won't find out about until September or October. And the other part is that land design has already done a fair amount of work for the city in developing the scope and the cost of that. We don't have anything for the scope, the cost of the Riverwalk or the streetscape. So we're working on those on the first priority. Tonight you're just going to see a concept for Riverwalk. We had hoped to have some budget numbers ready for you tonight, but we're not quite done, and we don't want to miss your expectations or set expectations that we can't be met. We didn't want to give you a number that might be too high or a number might be too low. We want to get it right. And so we'll present what we see as the cost estimate for Riverwalk to the Riverwalk subcommittee meeting that will be held next month. So tonight you're going to see as a concept for Riverwalk from Geithner Park, the Lackey project at Geithner Park to US 321. That's our focus right now. The design, we're not doing the final design. Part of our process at Freedom Nichols is to help the city hire designers and contractors that actually design these programs, these projects, and get them built. So we're just developing the concepts and developing the budgets and helping the city and working with the bond commission to set the priorities for those. Matt's going to go over the concept for the Riverwalk, and the time frame for that is hopefully we'll finish up developing the program for all of these three pieces: the city walk, the Riverwalk, the streetscape, and gateways. And the bond commission, we can stay on track to develop their recommendation for the city council probably late January, early February, with hopefully presentation to the city council in February on what the program should be, what should come forward, where the money will be spent for, what the priority will be. So the city can then go to the market, fill the bonds, and start that process of hiring designers, hiring contractors, and getting things built for the community. So we've got a lot of work to do between now and then. Hats off to Matt and to Morgan. Remember that really hot week in June, the third week in June? They spent 4 days that week walking every bit of this stuff. So they worked really hard that week and probably lost a lot of weight doing it. So with further ado, let me turn it over to Matt Milano, landscape architect with Reeves & Nichols. He will walk you through the concept for Riverwalk, and then we'll take your questions at the end and your suggestions. Thank you all.
Hi, it's nice to be in a lovely city again. I really like it. I'm going to take you through our concept design and also kind of the process that we went through in coming up with the concept. The first place we started was we looked at the Inspiring Spaces plan. And in that plan, which was a great framework for placemaking, within your city, it identified our site for the Riverwalk, which is between Geithner Park and 321, as kind of a destination area and an important linkage between the overall system. So getting to that hot day, we did some field work. And some of the things that we saw as challenges to implementing our project on this site, I think it's been mentioned before, is really the steep terrain. It's also heavily wooded, and there's really limited access to the water, which is really only at the 2 ends currently. So all three of these combined make it pretty challenging to get an accessible riverfront path throughout the corridor. There's currently only vehicular access to the Geithner Park portion, the northern portion, and there's an existing water treatment facility down south toward 321. of the good things that we saw out there, some things that we can harness to kind of strengthen our project. There's a really scenic existing multi-use path out there right now that we can interface with. We have connectivity to existing park infrastructure. We have Geiger Park to the north. We have JC Park to the south, as well as a Boy Scout camp and some mountain bike trails kind of sprinkled in the center there. We have planned upgrades to existing facilities. That Lackey Park master plan is a great project, and I think that will really help the Riverwalk in the end. And the most important thing is Lake Hickory. You know, there's waterfront views that we're so eager to get to. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about the relevant project examples. I just want to briefly say, you know, all of these projects, they're really good examples of how they can take a lot of the principles that we're utilizing in our concept and bring it all together to really build a successful project. The French Broad River Greenway in Asheville, it's really good. It's a pedestrian thoroughfare that takes people to the waterfront, has programmed activities kind of sprinkled in. The Atkinson Canal, Flat River, and Animas River, those are very similar projects. Those are really good projects in taking the users off of steep terrain trail systems and bringing them front and center to some of the most scenic views of those river valleys. The Ladybird Lake Trail in Austin and Carles Park in Greenville, you know, those have distinct pedestrian walk structures that have a very high architectural character. Those are things about those projects that make them pretty successful. So in developing our concept, you know, our overall vision that we could all agree on and see for this project, we had some design goals in mind. We wanted to create a comprehensive waterfront trail system. And we wanted it to be an artful system that had a very distinct architectural character that is both expressive and inspiring. And we wanted to increase the connectivity to the existing points of interest. We also wanted to make the southern portion of the Riverwalk a destination space because it helps strengthen the overall project if you have those two anchor points and a destination to travel. Looking at our concept plan, I'm going to first kind of orient you here. North is directly to the right there. You have the Lake Hickory to the top and the 321 and bridges up there as well. Down at the bottom right, you'll see that is the proposed Lackey Park master plan. And then over here to the top left, we have the wastewater facility. And Chuck's here. Have them talk a little bit about that facility. Yeah.
Just one point, that's a drinking water facility, not a wastewater facility. Everybody here probably used the water in town at some point today, right? Yes. Well, that's where it was made. So obviously, those white structures you see sort of in that gray left-hand spot is pretty important to us, pretty important to all of us. And so we've got to work around that facility and that infrastructure. And what Matt, I think, has done a good job doing is doing that, and he'll explain that in a minute. But again, that's just one of the challenges of this project is working around that existing drinking water plant. Again, the little white building closest to the lake, Matt, can you point that one out maybe? To the right of that? That one, that's sort of where the water comes in and it makes its way up the hill to the big white rectangle. And then it goes out into the plant, or goes out into the system to your homes. And then again, there's where we wash the dirty filters that makes its way back through the little treatment plant. And that water goes back into the lake. If you look at the 321 bridge, the little white building right there, Matt, that is a wastewater pump station. We have wastewater sewer in Caldwell County, sort of the MDI area. Pump sewer across the 321 bridge to that location. It pumps it back towards the 127 and goes out to the wastewater treatment plant. So there's two different things that we actually operate from infrastructure in that corner of our project. And one of the challenges that Matt has to work around, I think he's done a good job at the first stab of that, so we really get into detailed design at the next step.
Thanks, Charles. Just some other quick existing features before I get into the concept design. We have that existing shared use path that I mentioned earlier there, and then there's the Boy Scout camp right here in this circle. And if you're having trouble seeing this on the screen, you can follow along in your handout as well. Kind of like Charles said at the beginning, you know, we weren't really tasked with doing a real detailed plan that lays out where each pavilion is going to be in each, you know, restroom building. So we kind of kept it loose and focused more on relationships and interfaces. You can see this brown line right here that runs along the waterfront. That would be our proposed Riverwalk alignment. It would start kind of right here in the Slacken Park development, tie into the proposed boathouse dock. It would then kind of curve through and utilize the terrain as much as possible, continuing on until they got to this area between these two facilities. On our Riverwalk, we would have 3 different overlooks. These would be areas that would cantilever over the water. Each one of these overlooks, they have their own distinct view shed. This overlook, you would have a different view than this one, So they would all be a different experience for the user. As we come on the Riverwalk across here, right where we start to interface with this facility, we would then widen and go with a full boardwalk structure, and then pass on the waterfront side of that facility. Where we would come in right here, we would continue our pedestrian access on down, and then further connect up with, you know, future proposed connectivity items like the gateway and any potential pedestrian bridges in the future. If you look at this item, number 1, that would be where we would look to create our destination. Currently, right now in that area, I think it's the existing police firing range. And so all of the program items that may have been discussed or developed, we're thinking would fit right into this area right here. This little yellow piece right here would be vehicular access, handicap parking, and turnaround. The Riverwalk system. We also were showing an optional location for that here. This optional location would connect directly to this future parking lot expansion down by where these tennis courts currently sit. As we look at this multi-use path, we would then connect to some nature trails from our Riverwalk to that, as well as the Boy Scout camp. This area up top here, that would be the boat docks and kayak launch. So studying this Riverwalk in section view, we thought, given the steepness of the terrain and how challenging that would be, to go with a kind of a combination concrete pad and dock structure. What this does is this minimizes our disturbance and clearance limits, basically on that slope. As you move along, the terrain might widen or it might get steeper depending on where you are. We would then have the flexibility to go either with a full concrete section or a full deck section. The varying of these two materials throughout the course of the river, I think, would be a really nice design feature that would create visual interest as you move through the corridor as well.
Matt, what's the height of the deck?
Yeah, right now, in our concept, our idea would be showing the deck about 10, 12 feet above the water edge, and that really just kind of came from some thoughts on how high people they would flood. You know, if they wanted to.
How tall the beam is?
Right now in our process, we're not at a level of design where we're detailing out all of the elements of the Riverwalk, but in our concept, we are making some recommendations for some of these design features. If you're looking at decking and different railing options, you definitely want to go with a composite decking with collars that might match some of your existing improvements. Rail should be steel design, possibly with steel cables, pickets, or acrylic, something with a very high architectural character that would really make this destination area pop a little bit. We want to do low-level pedestrian lights for the walk. That would facilitate nighttime use as well as be able to be visible at night from across Lake Hickory. You'll be able to see it. The pedestrian lights should have their own distinct architectural character that fits in with the overall Riverwalk. Here's a photo right here of some lighting incorporated into the railing. That's something to keep in mind. The overlooks will have benches, and those benches should be steel to match the rail. Proposing to go backless, that way you can facilitate sitting and viewing for both over the waterfront and the natural area behind you up the slope in the woods. So here is some renderings. This slide and the next slide are a couple of renderings that our concept would look like when implemented. And this one kind of shows that curving form, how it traverses the terrain. It also shows an overlook right here and how that would cantilever over the water, evenly spaced pedestrian level lights. This view taken here is moving south towards proposed destination area. This is a pedestrian perspective view of a user that would be traveling on the Riverwalk past one of the overlooks toward the destination. So with that, here's a link to a website. The city, they toured the site from the lake on boat, and they took a video of it. We're not going to show it right now, but if you'd like to see that video, we can show it after the board. So with that, we'll open it up to questions and comments.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
How far of the walk is that from the Mackey project to 321?
It's roughly about 3/4 of a mile.
So, yeah, a couple comments and questions. It looks like your map stops at 321, and I believe that, Franz Park is on the other side of the bridge.
Yes.
There's a new bridge that they're talking about putting in at some point. So what is your plan for continuation of the trail underneath the new bridge so that it'll come up and continue the walk up to Franz?
Yeah, and in this phase of work, we haven't gotten that far. We've been really just focused on the areas between.
The scope of work the city's given us for the current bond fund is to focus on the concept and budget and design from the Lackey project to 321. It will eventually go under the new bridges that DOT will build over the river, but not in this phase.
Okay. I'd just like to see some comments so that we know that that's going to happen.
Yes,
That's part of the plan.
It's going to, in near 321, the design, when it's actually final design is completed, will be, I use the word flexible, where it goes under 321 to this side of the road, 321, tied back into a future sidewalk system up Old Lenore Road, depending upon what happens with that streetscape, to tie into all those features. So it's just a small piece of a bigger segment.
Good, good. And then I just add a couple other comments as I was listening. You've got the canoes and kayaks pretty close to your motorboats, and I don't know what the impact's going to be once this is built out for motor vehicle traffic. I try to separate those a little bit more. Canoes and kayaks really don't work that well with motorboats. We use it right now that way, but I try to separate those out. And keep in mind that there's really great opportunities for recreation with things like cardboard canoe races and stuff like that that could be huge. Just Google it, and you'll see what other communities are doing. It takes space to do that, but that would be an idea. There was just talk about all the water quality here. I would suggest we think about how do we interpret water quality so as people are walking
They realize the importance of this river out here, and here you got your water purification plant. So what are we doing to keep it closed? To me, the first thing I go like, oh, motorboats, oil, gasoline, ooh, that's not such a good story, but that's just my interpretation. And then on your Riverwalk, it looks like your picture actually has little pullouts. I think people are going to use this for fishing. They're going to sit down on those little benches that you've got there. So there needs to be plenty of space for people to do those activities, and we're including all aspects of the use of this river.
You want to clarify the power boat versus canoe also, Charlie?
Yeah, let me see. This is just for canoes and kayaks. There's an existing boat ramp right here now that the city uses, Wildlife Resources uses, and Duke Energy uses it. We're proposing to relocate it here. It's not going to be a public boat ramp. It's just going to be used for official use. They get water samples or have to do things like that, so it's not routinely used. But again, this is a conceptual design. Your point's a good point, well taken. So when the designer is doing the final design, that's something that they'll have to consider. Good point.
The overlooks seem to be the same size. Are they? What's the diameter of the overlooks, and how many people do you think can be on one at the same time?
About four or five
4 or 5?
per overlook.
4 or 5 people? Okay. What's the diameter? How wide is it?
I don't remember offhand, but I know that the trail that we have drawn is about 10 to 12 feet. And so the overlook kind of extends another 15 to 20 outside of that. Just the way I've designed it, that might not be the way it ultimately ends up. That was what I was trying to accommodate, 4 to 5 people per overlook.
And the 10-foot path will accommodate bikes and walking.
It would, that path would accommodate bikes and walking. Typically, your cyclists don't prefer to ride over the decking, but having that concrete path on the side would provide an opportunity for cyclists. So it's just another bonus to having that dual use section.
Any other questions? A lot to digest here.
Regardless, I think it's a great design.
That's what we're looking for. What we're doing with this is, as we said earlier, it's just a concept. The fine details and the widths and materials will be determined at a later date by another designer. We're just trying to see the constructability of it, the feasibility of it, and what the cost of it might be, so we can plug into the overall picture of the $40 million bond program. And so we have to start with something. So this is the concept that we're starting with. We want to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. We got really good input from the subcommittee, and so those ideas all certainly be incorporated into this final design. A lot of them incorporated into this conceptual design.
Matt, let's go back to the perspective from the lake. Yeah, that's going to help define Hickory. That's
And this is 321, the water treatment plant down here. So you're looking at it from Caldwell County, and that's the actual topography of the Zeta. Give you an idea of what it looks like. It'll be gorgeous.
yes.
I was just going to offer, Charlie, I think this is a fantastic start, because that's what this is, right? This is a start.
Yes.
And this may sound minute, but the only thing that I would look to is the labeling in that, back to the view you were on before, the aerial view.
Yes.
The labeling on that section that said, I think it's hard for me to read with the light so low, but I think it does say wastewater treatment, which has been clarified here, in that gray section. I would change that label before we go.
Any other comments on this? Okay. We have the esteemed mayor with us. Thank you, Ren, for joining us.
Well, I want to tell you how excited we are. And I can sense the excitement that you folks feel for where we're headed with this. 2 or 3 years ago, when we embarked on this, we talked in terms of $100 million or so that we wanted to see invested in improving the quality of life. And of course, we know that our taxpayers can afford $100 million. And we said we're gonna look to grants, we're gonna look to private investments, we're gonna look to donations. And look what we have. We've got $5 to $8 million for the Lackey project to contribute to this project, to the Riverwalk. Just go down the street from Z-Loop to Moretz, Holler, Transportation Insight, Piedmont Wagon, and you see all of the things that have happened. Most of the private dollars, tax credits, and donations. And then Thursday, Hank Gass and I, and any other council members who can make it, along with Andrea Surratt and Nick Berry, we're going to Washington to put a real push on for the $22 million Tiger grant, which fits in. It's almost like the specs for that grant were written for what we are trying to do and what the taxpayers of Hickory have stepped up and said we want to do. So we're excited. I promise you, we council members, we're like kids. We're always giddy with, what in the world? Every time we turn around, we got the Kiwanis Club saying we're going to do $100,000 participation for a splash pad at Charlotte Park, and we've got the Friends of Hickory going to do a $380,000 park. We are excited, folks. We thank every one of you for your contribution. Write, call your congressional representatives and senators. Did I say senators? Your representatives and senators, and go with email, not snail mail. Snail mail takes about 3 weeks because they're running through all kinds of processes. Okay? But I do. On behalf of City Council, thank you. We're excited. We're excited, and we're going to make some great things happen.
It's great you and David are here tonight to hear this. I know you're going to a council meeting, hoping you carry the message forward. But I do think if we get this thing started, it's going to be self-fulfilling, and hopefully more investment will follow. We just got to get it going, and that's what we're doing. So I'll turn it over to Andrea Surratt to talk about the legislative support for the Tiger Grant application.
Thank you, Bert. So the mayor just told you exactly what we're doing, and I wanted to be sure that you also had this in writing. So each person got a handout, but there are a lot more people here tonight. So if you're not a bond commission member, a Parks and Rec commission member, and you have a handout that has legislative strategy, if you're a bond commission member and didn't get one of those, you need to find someone that has one that can pass it up. Yeah, so if you have some extras, just pass it on to a bond commission member that may not have gotten one. We can sort that out. But basically, we are going on Thursday to make those appointments and make our case for why Hickory should be at the top of the list for the Tiger Grant. And with that work, also in the background, something that's very effective is what the mayor alluded to, which was to write through email or call your legislators. And so this list, front and back, are the contacts. And so we're going to be sending out to the Bond Commission, and Mac will forward it to the Parks and Rec Commission as well, some talking points and a one-page flyer that explains our application for the Tiger Grant. The Tiger Grant is a federally funded program, and it come around 7 times, and it's a national competition. Hundreds of cities apply, and they award a number of grants. They have about $600 million that they can work with this year, and we've of course got notification of that funding possibility in April, and then we needed to be in a pre-application process, and Jessica Martin Lane, she did amazing work in April and May and got us through the pre-app, and then we were invited. Not every city was invited, but we were invited to make full application, and Jessica's group did that for us by June 5th. And so, but for the city walk plans and the cost estimate, we would not have had a project that could have been submitted. So we're very thankful that that work had been done early on through Inspiring Spaces. But the nice thing that we know tonight is that in the next few weeks, as the cost estimates are developed, then we'll have the same level of project ready for other future grant possibilities, because we will have a cost estimate, we'll have a concept plan, and we'll have the renderings and the things that federal and state agencies need to see. So this work on the Riverwalk is right behind City Walk, and it's something that we can build on to make application for grants for it as well. Streetscapes will follow right in behind or inside, simultaneously, and we'll be able to go after federal funding too. But your legislative contacts are super important, and I'll summarize all that in an email to you. And we want to just be sure, if that's not something you normally do, then just take a stab at it. And we'll send a form letter that you can copy paste your contact information in, or you can just pick up the phone and call. That's what those legislative staff people are paid to do, is to take those calls from all the citizens. So we're going to make those contacts Thursday, but this is the crunch time. This is when we have to make those contacts, because the application is being considered in early August, would you say?
It goes through 2 rounds of cuts. The first round, they basically trim down the stack, and then if you make it through that first round of cuts, then they review your application in earnest. So we certainly want to make it through the first round, and so that our application gets reviewed in detail, and we have a fighting chance of getting money.
And there's some specific things that we will emphasize in the letter about why this project fits that grant. And TIGER stands for the Transportation Improvement Generating Economic Revitalization. So this project is based on our bond referendum, which is all based on jobs and transportation, jobs in the economy. So it all fits in with the, yes, ma'am.
So Rudy said that there's a contingency going up to Washington DC.
Yes.
Should we be planning to try to get a group of people to go to their homes where it's a little bit closer, and we can take, a group when they're not in DC, when they're back in Winston, or they're back in
It may
Huntersville,
be too late by then, but I think that's why the phone calls and emails are the right way to time it for all of us. And we are contacting. There are numbers for the local offices for those reps, but certainly we just got to get in front of them immediately before they go through the round. So come to you next. Go ahead.
Audrey, on page 1, these email addresses, like Dean Myers, is that an underscore or space?
Okay.
Can you tell me,
Dean Myers.
just
Ellie Burke?
It's an underscore.
It's an underscore.
In both cases?
Yeah. Thank you. That autocorrect. So, yeah, underscore. Yes, Dean.
Who actually makes the decision on the TIGER grant?
There is a staff group that work directly under Secretary Fox who will make that decision, but it's at the staff level. Those are high up Federal Highway Department, Federal Highway Administration decisions. At
So
the staff level.
everybody knows Anthony Fox used to be the mayor of Charlotte, so he does have a connection to North Carolina. I think we ought to push that.
Yes, Ed.
Andrew, you may want to factor in that Congress is typically off in August, and Fox and McHenry will hold Hickory office hours.
Yes,
in
well,
August.
that's right. So it won't be too late. It's just how far have we gotten to them for them to contact the federal.
Well, I agree, contact them now,
Yes,
but then
and
follow
do it
up to see
again.
what they're
Yes,
doing for
absolutely.
us in August at their office hours.
Perfect. That's a great idea. That's exactly right. Yeah. That's good.
Is Charlotte applying for one of these?
All right, well, we're researching, we're trying to find out who's applying, because that's the big,
flow through the federal government. The state did not serve as a clearinghouse on these applications. So probably about a week before we submitted the final app, we were in touch with the guy at the state level, and he said, I've heard of a couple people submitting, but he had no way of knowing. There's no way of knowing until everyone submits through the federal website.
And the reason I ask is we have lots of Charlotte Hickory connections. And Fox, is what was mentioned, was the mayor, so we ought to use those.
And we are definitely.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, Fox was in Charlotte today, the trolley car.
Right.
that's right, that's right.
And he invites all that inviting him here.
Well, no, I hadn't thought of that yet.
It's there, you can invite it.
We're gonna be there Thursday.
I mean, I was just thinking,
That's great.
especially since he was already gonna be in North Carolina, and this,
Yeah. All right, good. We're capturing all this in our notes, so thank you. That's good. Anybody else out there with other hands? Anybody else? Questions? Good. All right, so, so I would like to reintroduce Jessica Martland. So Jessica is going to be, she is our subcontractor with Streetscape. She is part of a firm that's going to help us, as Charles said, with the financial planning of this grant and also grants themselves. So bond program, excuse me, and then grants themselves. So Jessica is going to be leading the subcommittee meetings that we'll have in August. And those discussions will be about things like supplemental funding, how do these projects fit in with possible grant opportunities? She has an endless amount of knowledge on all of that. She's amazingly able to crank out that grant in just less than a month. So it's a huge federal grant. We would not have been able to do that on our own. So that's part of the discussion in August. And part of what we need to do is just keep leveraging these dollars on and on, so we can have more than the 40 million. So that's the goal. So I just wanted you to see name and face. When we get back together in August, then she's going to be helping us facilitate and lead that discussion as well. So,
Are we keeping our eyes open for other grants?
yes.
Yeah, that's a great point, because, we kind of put the cart before the horse with this grant, just where we were in the overall bond process. We weren't even under contract to support the city at the time when we were alerted to this. We just said, it's now, or we wait a year, and who knows what the federal government will do in a year, so.
Timing's everything.
Yes, we had to take the opportunity when it presented itself.
Good. Anything else on Tiger grant? We, you want to do the light?
I'd like to show you just a few slides from the Lackey project. Some of you have seen it, some of you haven't, and we'll call that up. But before we do that, Matt, can I call on you just to sort of give the drill about baseball tickets and sort of after this meeting is over, what they can expect or what
Sure,
they need to do?
sure. Anybody, we've got tickets for anybody who wants to wants to stay and go to the ball game. So if you'll see me, I'll give you a ticket. What we have reserved, once you go into the stadium, if you turn left and come down to suites 5 and 6, we have suites 5 and 6. They're connecting suites, interior, so you'll be able to go one to the other. We also have party patio, outdoor patio number 3, which is the one right beside it next to the carousel. So just see me, I've got tickets back here. If anybody wants, you're more welcome to join us at the ball game.
So while Charles is calling that up, the PowerPoint up.
Yeah.
So if you'll look down at the last one, number 9, is establishing the next meeting dates. So our subcommittees are at the end of August. The dates that this team of staff have available, that everybody can be here, is a Monday, August 24th, and a Tuesday, August 25th. I know the Riverwalk Committee would like to think about a Monday and
24th. August 24th.
August 24th in the morning. That works best for Chairman Dixon and Vice Chairman Bell. And so does anybody have? yes?
We'll take either afternoon, 5-ish.
All right, 5-ish for City Walk, either afternoon. How about, where's Rob? What do you guys, you want an afternoon, you want to be?
I think the consensus of
Monday
the afternoons were better.
All right, so
But
we'll put,
I don't know that we have a preference on.
does anybody have, is anybody totally not here?
The opposite. Yeah, so whatever the opposite.
Okay. Anybody?
What is the morning starting time?
8 o'clock, 8:30. 8:30 seems to work. We're having some staff. 8:30. So what I'll do is send that out and do another doodle poll. Y'all are very patient with that doodle poll. It's easy for us to keep seeing who's coming in, and that helps us. So that's a Monday. So Riverwalk in the morning, and then the City Walk and the Streetscapes are going to be Monday or Tuesday, and we'll draw straws there and see what happens. So thank you. So that's coming up. That's your next gathering time, and then the final bond commission, not the final, the next bond commission meeting will be sometime in mid-October, late October. What we're trying to do is wait until we know about Tiger Grant, and then with that sort of resets our priorities. So we don't have a date yet, but we want to think about that mid to late October timeframe as being the next quarterly meeting of this group. We'll be in touch on that. All right, so lights. So the Lackey project, you saw that on the screen. This is the Bob Lackey family, and they are interested to, there we go, to redevelop Geithner Park. So the area in blue, thank you. The area in blue is about 31 acres. If I can see that correctly. And our Riverwalk really does extend all the way down to the water treatment plant. So it's going to connect right in with the redevelopment of the Lackey Park. This just is another view, sort of zoomed in on that. Okay, hang on. We haven't test driven this on.
I have to work it on the laptop.
Okay, all right. Well, why don't we just, we got a technical difficulty, we can take a few minutes.
Okay, can I say a little something about, okay, I'm gonna fill the dead air. If you are going to be submitting a letter on behalf of our Tiger Grant, as Andrea mentioned, these are transportation investments to aid in economic recovery. So the things you want to think about are the hot buttons that they look for in scoring these applications are safety, obviously economic recovery, and then some of the other key points which are really unique to the City Walk project are access to education, obviously with Lenore-Ryan University right there. That was a key feature of our application. And low-income areas of the town being easily connected through these infrastructure improvements that are being planned. So all of those presented themselves as opportunities for this project and with our application. So any of those things that you can hit on. And of course, environmental stewardship and sustainability. The more people we get out of vehicles and walking on these sidewalks, connecting to other town, that's another hot button. So.
Did I understand you correctly, that there's the potential that this is reoccurring annually? So if we didn't get it this year, we could reapply next year?
It started with, when the recession hit, the federal government started setting aside grants, funding mechanisms to stimulate the economy. As Andrea said, this one's been going for like 7 years now. They've been putting this appropriation back into the plan. But you never know. You never know if it'll make it.
There's a matching grant, right? So you gotta have money on the other side too.
For municipalities municipality of your size, yes,
Yeah.
there are some matching funds. For smaller municipalities and unurban areas, they're strictly grant funds. But they are planning to have another round next year, but you never know. Yes.
Is there priority in terms of who should be contacted first or more?
We contacted Burr and McHenry and did get a form letter of support with our application. I would say pull out all the stops in terms of just flood them with interest and letters and whatever you can do to help this raise to the top.
All right, thank you, Jessica. So, all right, we'll just keep going. Tricky one. I didn't want to do it. You know, it's such a mystery, right? All right. I might have to point to it on the
It was in the report, I think, in the newspaper, a lot of
Yes.
photos were shown there, so I think people have seen that in the paper.
It's on our council website. We did present it to the city council and Parks and Rec Commission last month, well, in May. So what I just encourage you to do is if you wanted to see the latest and greatest renderings, that's really what's on the PowerPoint, and I apologize, we should have uploaded that first. We were afraid we would have no time, but you gave us time and we tried to fill it, so.
Andrea,
Sure.
when will you get that email out with that kind of, I've jotted it down.
Good, yes.
Will you be able to?
I think the email to you all can be out by the end of tomorrow. Everything is ready. We have the flyer, we've got the contacts and the talking points, and now we just need to assemble the email and send it to
Okay.
you. Yeah, it's all working. I'm told it's working. Let's try one more time. Yay.
There you go.
Okay, wonderful. So I just wanted you to see the detail in this project. Yeah. So the lake house is the larger of the two facilities that the Lackey family is interested to build. This is a special event facility, so a nice veranda, open air, enclosed banquet facility with an amphitheater and a floating dock for performances. So think about being, out here. Right now, that's a very wooded area, but that would be opened up. And then the performances happening on the dock, projecting back up the hill toward the lake house.
Andrea, where's the current building? Is the current building
Pretty
underneath?
much right where that hand is. What did you say, Mac?
Right where the lake house is.
Right where the lake house is.
Okay.
So when you go down there, just replace it. A little bigger footprint, that's about a 10,000 square foot building, so bigger there. The conservatory is an indoor-outdoor formal garden space. The Lackey family, because of their donation, is also asking for the right to use this facility for family burial. So that's very subtle, you wouldn't even know it if you weren't paying attention, but crypts and spaces and floors and walls and tucked in behind things. But that's part of the donation, is because this is for memorializing Miss Lackey, and she had envisioned a beautiful garden space in some of her planning, then this is how Mr. Lackey wanted to remember her. So that's a part of this project as well. But you could also have events at that space. A conservancy, a nonprofit group will be established to manage this facility as it moves forward. So the Lackey's family is building the buildings and then donating them back, or giving them back to the city. They will pay for the cost of those buildings. And then a board, a nonprofit board will be established. It will include members that city council appoint as well as the Lackey family appointing, and that will help manage a more formal space. And this is a new model for us, but because of the amount of investment, private investment, then it's really taking this park to the next level and maintaining it at a higher standard than other facilities that the city has. You can see the connections. The greenway would be new connections to the existing greenway. The Riverwalk is just off the map here, going back down.
How far would it connect in to the?
I'm not sure.
This
Did you
wall.
did you get that? Bob?
Yeah, I was proposing, right here, I think if you look at one of their renderings, there's a boardwalk structure here.
Okay.
It would come in and tie into one of these
So there,
terraces.
all right. So you could really walk all the way to the new dock space, another kayak and canoe launch here, a new fishing pier, family shelter and playground space, some parking, of course, in the front. They're gonna open up an existing stream that's underneath the parking lot and daylight that facility and just make it a nice feature. So all of this improvement is in the beginning of an engineering phase where they're working with TSW out of Atlanta, who did this plan, and they're taking it now to the next level where detailed engineering is being done. But let me just scoot through a few more photos just so you can see. So here's another rendering of what that would look like, sort of lake view. Just have such an asset in that park, all that property along the lake, and I think these just kind of zooms in on the space, playground space, the parking, and the facility. There's the lake house.
Andrew,
Sir.
what's the seating capacity of that building?
I want to say 200 and 250. They show a diagram. I don't think that's on this plan,
They're
but
still working, that's about 250, they were still working.
Yeah.
What's the capacity of the parking lot? It doesn't look like
what do you
it's
think, Brian?
proportional.
125 spaces?
No, you need at least 125.
Yes, I mean, they have to meet they have to meet zoning requirements for the parking community based upon the square footage of the facility and that use, so yeah, I don't remember that.
It just looked like the rendering didn't have that mean, I was just wondering.
Well, you're right, it does give you that sense, but they do have to plan for that. So
From a design standpoint, will we be tying in the Riverwalk with the work that they're already doing so that it all?
It's a good question. I think that was definitely one of your comments from the subcommittee, that the design elements from this amenity would be repeated again and again in the Riverwalk, and yes, I think that's definitely the case. Good. There's the architecture. Whew, can't read all those numbers. So they laid it out with banquet tables, 10-person banquet tables, and planned it out. So there's space on the veranda and space, of course, inside. And it'll have a warming kitchen, but not a full kitchen. So just a place to rent. You've seen that picture, probably. There's the night view. Conservatory. It's a little further uphill, and I didn't mention this in the plan, but there will be what's called a tree canopy walk or a tree walk, because of the elevation between the lake house and the conservatory is such that they'll create a 2-story canopy walk that comes in at grade of the conservatory. So if you can imagine, it'll be ADA accessible, it'll have an elevator, so all those can use it, or so basically going up to sort of the tree line, being able to walk several hundred feet along this tree walk and then exit out at the conservatory. Pretty amazing. There's the conservatory structure. Sorry, I know I'm in people's way. I apologize. North side view. That'll look out over the lake. So just fabulous. And then their timeline is somewhere to 2017, and Mr. Lackey has sort of added on, maybe into 2018 by the time it's all built. So we're working through all those agreements, the design, and that's the update. So I just wanted you to have that information. All this is on the city website if you want to go back again.
Isn't that iconic, the whole concept, what the Lackeys have done, what these gentlemen and ladies are put together for our community? I mean, it's going to be a great way to put Hickory on the map and move it forward, and that's what we're all about. And everybody needs to carry forward the message to their constituencies and friends in the community, and let's get this thing going faster. So
So, with that, any further questions? If not, I say we adjourn the meeting. Remember, Matt's got tickets in the back. Thank y'all for attending. How are you doing?